From the heart of Dubai, where tomorrow is being built today, to the world. Welcome to the CTO Show with Mehmet. Here, we redefine technology and reimagine possibilities. With Mehmet, delve into the riveting realms of AI, cybersecurity, and digital technology. Experience the thrilling highs and lows of startups. Immerse yourself in the spirit of entrepreneurship and witness the future of business innovation being written in real time. Now, without further ado, let's tune in and explore the future.
Hello and welcome back to a new episode of the CTO Show with Mehmet. Today I'm very pleased joining me, Dan. Dan, thank you very much for being on the show. The way I like to do it is I keep it to my guests to introduce themselves. So the floor is yours.
Yeah, Mehmet, thank you very much for having me. Really excited to do this. It's the first time I've been on a show in a while, actually. So, super excited. Thank you very much for having me. So, yeah, my name's Dan Hafner. I am the founder creator of a business I created called Dapper Mobile Apps. As you might know, it's basically a app and software development agency focused on no code or low code solutions for startups, small businesses, entrepreneurs, things like that. That's kind of how I got my start. I kind of started it all as a hobby, 5, 6, 7 years ago, whenever that was. Kind of turned it into a freelancing type of career, and then eventually turned it into an agency and stuff. So it's a really fun world. It's something that I never thought I'd be in at all. But as I've grown and expanded in it, have just found so much, so much fulfillment, so much fun, so much challenge in the whole 9 yards. It's been a wild ride.
Great, great. And we will deep dive a little bit more into all this, Dan. And thank you again for being here. So the first thing, uh, when you say app, right? So are we talking about, because people still confuse this. So are we talking about a mobile app or a website that works on a mobile?
Yeah, that's a good question. When I first started, I always thought apps were, the thing on your phone, like the little icon that you click, and that's what it is. And I mean, that's still I think what a lot of people associate it with, but app is short for application. So there can be both. There's web applications, there's mobile applications, right? Um, so really when you think of the word application, it applies to something. It's helping you achieve a certain goal or solve a certain problem, right? You think about Facebook as an app, it's a social networking app. You think of TikTok, you think of even software like we met on Podmatch. That is an application. It has a specific focus that solves a specific problem. And it can be, both functioning inside of a web browser, whether it's Safari, Google Chrome, whatever like that, or on a mobile app. And it can be both at the same time. That's what's really, really neat about it as well. So, I think it's when people see things on browsers, they might not think, oh, this is an app. We're kind of used to just thinking, oh, this is a website that functions that way. But, you know, the difference between it, I like to tell people is, a website is something that's very static. It's like, hey, the website's designed to just be there and you can make it, a little interactive, changing things, updating things from now and then. But an application is designed to capture data and it's dynamic and it lives and you can, just like on Podmatch, right? You can message people and there's updates and there's new things that come through and there's all kinds of different stuff. So it's a living, breathing organism really in the online world. So yeah, great question.
Good, good. So you mentioned something during the introduction, which is, very close to my heart because I've done and I'm still doing it from time to time. You mentioned no code, low code. So how, you like, let's go one step back and try to explain, why leveraging these solutions make, you know, the whole story much easy. And the second one, why actually it's a good way to start developing the app on such platforms.
Yeah, yeah, good question. I mean, I guess what I can tell you is kind of how I got started in it because that's how a lot of people go down it is I had an idea back, I think it was 2017, 2018. for an application that I wanted to build. I was about to get married. I had gained a little bit of weight. I needed to lose some weight. Didn't really find a solution out there that was really working for me because I really like to run. So I had this idea of an app or, a solution that I wanted to build. Problem was, I didn't know how to code. So I had literally no idea. I started going down, taking some classes, was like, okay, I'm not prepared to do this. This is way too much work. I was employed full time at the time. So that was the thing. So I went down that path of like, oh, I'll just code it and build it myself, and then realized that's not my cup of tea, not something I want to do. The second piece was now I'm going to start researching, developers or agencies or things like that to say, hey, I have this idea. What would this cost me to build? Long story short, they came back and gave me like astronomical numbers. I'm talking like 100 grand, 200 grand, quarter million dollars to build this running and fitness app that I wanted. And it was like, okay, well, I don't have that kind of cash lying around, right? So then I went down the rabbit hole online and found that there were ways that I could bring this idea to life without having to code and without having that bulk cash lying around, right? So those are the two things that I think when somebody has an idea for something, when a business wants to implement this type of solution, um, it allows you to circumvent that. You don't have to go down this long arduous route of coding and learning to code or hiring coders or things like that. And then you also get to save the money that you would put into that. I mean, unless you're hiring like someone like me, like a no code developer agency like that. But we're still nowhere near $100,000, $200,000 to build things, right? So one, it saves you time and money. But and then the most important piece of that is time because I've literally launched entire software platforms for people inside of like a month, inside of a few weeks. And it allows you to be super agile, allows you to be, in this world where it's first to market. It's you see a problem, you launch something, it's speed, like speed, 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 right? And the no code, the low code stuff allows you to take an idea and bring it into fruition a lot faster and a lot cheaper and get validation before you dump a $250,000 into something or something like that, or even more. So you don't end up going down that rabbit hole and end up 3 years down the road and $500,000 in the hole, and then don't have anything to show for it. So that's really why it's important. There's a lot of other things, but that's really the biggest piece that I see how it helps people.
100%. And the numbers you mentioned, they are actually, when I used to tell people, like, I hear these numbers, they thought I'm joking or I'm exaggerating. I'm telling them no. And this is, one part of the thing that I try to do now when I speak, especially with non-technical first-time founders, because they are excited and they want to build, their idea. And they say, hey, we've got like this uh, quotation, and they say, really, you don't need this. Like, you need first to test, your product if you're gonna have a demand on it, and then you would take it to the next level. Now, one thing that always I had this debate maybe 100 times or more. So when we are building an app for the first time, should we go? And I know, like, how you explained that very well at the beginning about applications. So, and it can be either running in the browser or running on a mobile device. But from your experience, Dan, because you've done it like for now quite some time, if I come up to you with a new idea, so do you prefer that I directly build it onto a mobile app platform, as an application that I can download it from the App Store or the Android store, or I can? Is it better to make it running on a web browser, but of course to be optimized for a mobile device screen? So, which route usually you prefer to take?
Um, I'm gonna probably go with the classic response of it depends. I mean that's a good question because it's not a one size fits all solution. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Um, there might be first of all, you have to make sure you have a legitimate idea that actually needs to be
True.
solved and people will pay for, and that's a whole other conversation we can get into. But when people come to me and some people just have an idea. Like there was one lady that came to me with an idea that was like, I want to build this little tool that I can, document, what I'm wearing and how I'm doing and like all these different things and ideas. It's not launched yet, so I won't get into it. But that was clearly something that's a mobile app idea. That's like it clearly like there people are going to be on the move. They're not going to sit down in front of a computer and
Mhm.
actually do these things like a laptop and all those types of stuff. So that made sense to go into a mobile application. There's other people that want to build, like kind of like a flipboard type of clone or like a Instagram type of clone and things like that. That could make more sense to do inside of a responsive type of application, because there could be people that both use it inside of a mobile, on the go type of thing, but also when they're sitting down, maybe at work or at, running their business or whatever, or at night, using their laptop or desktop or whatever it might be. So, I mean, it really depends on the goals you're trying to achieve. I will say, depending on your marketing prowess and your ability to actually market and do and get things out there, having an app on the App Store and Google Play really it's a super underrated marketing channel that people don't realize how fast you can actually grow. Like my first app, that health and fitness one, it's kind of like that hockey stick curve. Like there was kind of no traction, no traction, no traction, and then boom, it was like a hockey stick. It went up like exponentially. I didn't spend a dime on ads, not a dime on anything else. It's just it's like SEO, once you get ranked for the right keywords, you can explode so fast, right?
Mm.
You have to do SEO and that kind of stuff when it comes to a progressive web app and things like that. So if you're good at marketing, if you can hire an agency, if you can afford that type of stuff, that might be a good route to go. But it's also you have to drive traffic to that. You have to figure that out on your own. Whereas like with the App Store, you're kind of tapping into an unbelievable market that's just worldwide. It can be worldwide, you know what I mean? So yeah, long answer is that, short answer is it depends on your goals.
100%. Like maybe from my side, I would go a little bit techie here. And if I see the feature that they are looking for depends on something only a mobile can do it, like for example, maybe they need to rely on the accelerator sensor, or they rely on the sensors usually we see in the mobile phones. So probably, yeah, like if they will not be running with a laptop, right? So
That's a
so they
that's a
would.
very, very good point as well. It is feature specific as well. Yes.
Yeah, so it's fit, and again, so but to your point, it depends. So there's no one fit answer for this, and 100%. And now, because you said like we can have discussion about this, because we both talk to a lot of people who has ideas. So, what makes really, in your opinion, a good idea for an app?
Ooh, good question. You know, it's almost like people call it the sniff test. There's almost like there is kind of like an initial um first impressions matter. You know what I mean? When somebody comes to me or like they submit a form or whatever it is through a site, you can kind of get the idea of I mean, what there's an old saying, it's like, I'm not gonna get it right, but it's like if the plan takes longer to explain than it took to come up with, it's probably a bad plan or something like that. Sometimes it's like you can hear the idea and somebody can explain it to you. And if they can explain it succinctly and in, a very short time of like, hey, I want to build this app that solves this problem for this person or this group of people. Okay, that's probably a good idea. There's probably features you can explore. There's probably an actual market for this thing that could actually succeed. If somebody comes to me and they're just giving me a long-winded a thing around, hey, I kind of have, I want to do this thing for this person that maybe they might not even solve a problem, or there's just something that's just kind of vague with it. I can tell they're still ruminating it in their mind and they don't really have that solution, nailed down of like, hey, this is what we're building and this is why. Because again, like not everything needs to be an app. I even tell people I have a whole show topic on this of you might have an idea that it doesn't really need to be an app. Like you said, you could build a website around it, or you could just, it doesn't even need to be something like that. So why are you going down this path? Um, so it's really interesting. That's a very broad question, but that's probably my best answer is short of saying it depends. There is like that sniff test of like, hmm, I see that. That's a good idea, but does that really need to be an app? Or does that, is there a market for that? There's a bunch of different factors, I think. What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah. I would say it depends. I would say it depends.
Yeah.
100% agree with you, Dan. But now there's, I'm sure like you get also these. I'm not into that part a lot, but people try to see apps, and especially mobile apps as one of their marketing channel routes, right?
Mhm.
So in your opinion, why sometimes it's important? For example, maybe and you can give I will give you the chance to tell about use cases. But for example, if I am a restaurant, I'm a coffee shop, I'm a retailer in, I don't know, in apparels, whatever. So can really, having a mobile presence, if the term is right, it help me in increasing my first brand awareness, maybe my sales. What have you seen in that domain, Dan?
Yeah, that's a good there's a lot there. So, I mean, one thing I've seen with local businesses, like you said, like coffee shops, restaurants, those types of things, um, it can help, but think about a restaurant or a coffee shop. They're not really making national sales. They're not making worldwide sales. Like if I can't buy coffee where you are, you can't come to a restaurant where I am. You can't even get delivery, right?
Right.
Um, so in that case, it might be like, well, do you really want to grow? I think for those types of things, it might be worth, there's already apps out there like Grubhub, DoorDash, those types of things where you can go and get listed on those things. Um, I think for those, and we're just talking about local businesses for right now. Those can really benefit if they want to add their own, offline payment thing or a delivery piece, and you don't want to pay the fees to the delivery companies or those types of things, right? Now, when it comes to somebody, maybe like us that, operates online, you can have clients anywhere in the world. You can do those types of things. I mean, obviously, it's kind of self explanatory that if you get listed all over the place or you're on the World Wide Web, it really makes sense to do those, to have that ability to acquire customers from everywhere. So, for example, I'll go back to my original app that I had. When that hockey stick took off, I mean, the amount of downloads and people that were signing up with name and email every single day. I mean, it ranged from like 10 people a day to like 100 people a day. So my list went it grew really, really fast, extremely fast. I had one client, one of my very first client actually. When she launched, she really knew how to market. She knew what she was doing. She went on a bunch of TV shows, marketed herself, did all kinds of different things. And she grew her list from 0 to 5,000 people inside of like 3 weeks through
Wow.
her app. And she could do push notifications and anything she wanted to with them because she had the right product at the right time and marketed it in the right way. Right. So, yeah, when it comes to that, I've seen a little bit less. I know I hear a lot of people like, every business needs an app, everything like that. And I would kind of push against, even as someone who could do that for every business. I would kind of push against that to say, like, well, I mean, you know, think about it. I remember before COVID, there was a lot of, gyms and restaurants and local places where I was that I was talking to about apps and different things like that. And then as soon as COVID hit, you would think that everybody was like, yeah, like we need the app, we need to do this and then but spending restricted. So they were like, "Ah, we don't want to spend money on that. We don't know if that'll work." And a lot of them ended up not going with the app. You know what I mean? So but since that's all kind of over, there's different, circumstances in this day and age and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of my answer for that. So it kind of depends on what you're like. I hate to say it depends on every question, but it really depends on your specific circumstance. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's true, and it's a fact that we cannot neglect because every business is different.
Right.
One thing that I noticed personally, and this is not new, this is like quite like when still the app was something, right? Like everyone wanted to jump. There was a misconception that it's something you do it once and then you set and forget it, which is not like, because
Yeah.
having a mobile app needs, you need to keep it, I mean, up to date. You need to add features. You cannot just like push it to an app store or whatever it is, and then say, okay, I'm fine, I'm done, right? So I've seen this misconception a lot, and yeah, like to your point, I think it's very valid point when these super apps started to come, like delivery apps for food, and now here in Dubai, for example, we have everyone went that route. So everyone actually, they don't want to build an app; they want to build a super app. And super app is, for example, yeah, like think
Yeah.
about similar to Uber, but actually when you open, you find the ride, you find your grocery, you find everything that can be ordered, you find under one umbrella.
Mhm.
And this has killed a lot of other apps. So any app that does only one thing, it I would not say died, but
Mm.
no one talks about it anymore. And this is, will lead me. What do you think the future is like for this whole mobile thing? Because things are changing fast now around us. So, what are the trends that you are seeing in that space now?
That's a really good observation, to be honest with you. I mean, there is. I agree with you. There's I mean, even look at, what Elon's doing with Twitter, just making it X, like the everything app, right?
Yes.
That was immediately came to mind as well for me. That's really, really interesting. So, I think there's always the classic, you know, don't be a jack of all trades, be super good and super deep at one thing, you know? So it's like, okay, so take X for example. Can it really be the best? Can it be better than Facebook Messenger, for example? Can it be better than TikTok? Can it be better than all these different things all at once? That seems like a really, really tall order for some of these, right? And it goes just to what you said. There's got to be massive resources put into something like that large, right? But so for a smaller business, hey, you want to, these types of apps are growing in popularity as marketplace apps. Like that's what I see more and more people gravitating towards is, say, um, there's local farms everywhere where I live. Like, so let's say, hey, like we want to build a marketplace app where any local farm, like a local guy down on the corner, can list his business that might make, $5 a day selling corn and tomatoes, but now he can sell to the whole greater area of the city of where he lives because he can be seen more and he can have more visibility and those types of things. Um, I think there's a lot of trends towards those that I've seen inside of marketplace apps. Again, I think those are hard to get adoption to, and there has to be certain um, incentive structure in place for that. But speaking of the future and of trends, I really think that the progressive web app is going to be the future of things. That you even see things with Apple now where they're actually allowing those types of things to be on the App Store, which never was allowed before. Um, it's just I always like those as well because you can just publish changes really quickly. It allows businesses to just we can publish updates same day. There's issues that come through, we fix them, we patch them, we move on. Um, I that's really, really interesting, but at the same time, there's people that I work with who have these ideas um, for apps that are still specific and they still work, and I think they're a lot more easier to communicate to people of like, "Hey, get this app and then you can download this thing and solve this problem in your business and do this whatever." It's very simple, but again, it's hard to get more engagement in more, repeat users and grow that to even be a sellable asset. So I'll just answer every single question with it depends. I think, if you do have an idea for that everything type of app, there's definitely room for it. But you have to be very, very dedicated to growing that thing and messaging it in the correct way and being willing to do updates and all that type of stuff. So, but then also AI, I think is really changing a lot of things too. Especially in the no code, low code space. Like there's a lot more adoption inside of that and people, incorporating chat GPT into things and doing, different things with that. So the future is um, very, very interesting. I just talked with a gentleman yesterday on my show and we were talking about, what does the future hold? And because I told him there's all these reports that come out that say, hey, 70% of all development projects are going to be inside of no code in 5 years. And I'm like, eh, I doubt it. But it was interesting because he made this observation that, you know, back when was you could only code apps or there was no such thing as a no code or low code thing.
Yeah.
It was that, hey, we're gonna code everything, and then if we need no code, it's kind of like there's a place for it, right? What he was saying was that no, in 5, 10, 20 years, no code is going to be the dominant thing that is going to be used, but there's still going to be a place for coding solutions. So it's like the inverse, you know, which is really, really interesting when you think about it and kind of how that's trending. Um, so there's a lot of crazy things happening, a lot of exciting things happening, and the future's just I think the PWA is really the future of this whole business.
I agree with you. And the one thing I remember, there was a whole debate, and people were literally doing grants against Apple back in the days because they used to reject these kinds of apps. But I think they have figured out that this is the future. And this is actually, funny enough that Apple, they unified the whole operating systems across all the devices so they can offer a seamless experience between whether you are on a phone, tablet, laptop, desktop. And then if you look now, so now, I'm using a MacBook Air now. And if, I go to the phone, like I would have like same seamless experience,
Yeah.
which is, I'm saying this to your point. I believe like PWA, like progressive web apps, as long as, except some use cases which are very specific to the hardware of the device, you need a mobile device to do this. Maybe things will change in the future. I don't know. Maybe we will be able to rely on sensors that they don't have to sit on the phone with just, so this will be aired like in a week or so. So maybe people saw yesterday, the humane device that will go out very soon in the US, and now we're talking about something, not even a phone. So you have a screen on your palm of your hand. So
Yeah.
so things,
Well, yeah,
yeah,
and just
please.
to add one thing that just came to me too, I think there's also a future in I'm seeing a lot more, applications that are, especially tied in with the culture, especially here in the US. Like there's this there's almost like this movement to create um, platforms that are value specific. Like you saw like, Donald Trump goes off and creates his own social media thing because of
Yeah,
getting kicked off Facebook, Twitter, those types of things. There's more things happening like that. There's even business marketplaces that say, hey, we're all about these values and we reject these. So like they're literally taking a stand and saying, this app isn't for everybody. This is only for you if you believe these certain things or think this certain way and do those types of things. And I've seen a couple of these cropping up, and that's really interesting to me, because it almost paints a future of, it's like not everyone will be on the same TikTok or everyone will be on the same Facebook or the same social things or even like the same internet. You know what I mean? So it's a really interesting world. Maybe there's gonna be more, right now you have the App Store and Google Play that are really the dominant players in the app, like the native app download space. Maybe there's another one that crops up that is something like that, that says, "Hey, we're not gonna restrict anything that you wanna do. We're not gonna take any revenue. We're not gonna do anything like that." That's really interesting. You know what I mean? So, I just wanted to add that when you mentioned that came up too, and I saw I
yeah.
see I see this as a trend, and it's really interesting to watch to see like, okay, are they going to be successful at that? You would think that saying, we're going to reject 90% of the other people because you believe something different than we do. That seems like not a great strategy or making yourself a lightning rod, but it's actually proving to be pretty successful. so,
Yeah.
so that's an interesting trend to watch.
Interesting indeed. And again, to something that you mentioned just now, we have a new store that is coming, which is the AI store as well.
Mm,
So, OpenAI now with their new release of GPTs. So they allow you to create your own chatbot. And I'm not sure, I read the
right.
blog post. Not someone mentioned, I'm not sure if it's on their website or I read it somewhere else. So there will be some revenue sharing actually from this activity. And to your point, what platforms are trying to do now, and maybe it's a bit far from our main topic, is to your point, like people are trying to take their audience and they are telling them, if you come with us, we're gonna share revenue with you. So actually, Elon Musk did this with Twitter X now, and now OpenAI, they are doing this with Chat GPTs. You know, and I'm wondering in the mobile space if Apple or Google, and we don't know what they are doing. Of course, are they going to make something like this? Because of course now they try to take the share from the developers when you put on the app store. So I think the last time I checked, it was like around, correct me if I'm wrong, Dan, they take 20% from the revenue in the app store. It was 10% back in the day, I remember, but someone told me it hiked recently. So now they need to do the other way around. So they need to encourage, the community to develop more apps on their platform. So they need to encourage and, you know, kind of, to your point, which is very, very, very interesting point. Now,
Mm.
we talked about ideas and we talked about what makes good, what you know, bad ones, or maybe something to review. I'm sure, like you, when someone comes to you, probably it would be their first time. Maybe they are first time founders, or maybe first time they try to create something. So, do you see there is a gap in, and I'm not talking specifically about the mobile, but because you deal a lot with entrepreneurs. So, do you see there's a gap of knowledge that is there? So, because people, they think it's easy, and then they get shocked with the reality. Like, what do you think can be done to? So, for example, instead of, you know, because this is you from your time, then, like you need to keep dialogue going and coming back and forward, with these guys until they get it. So, do you think there is a knowledge gap about starting businesses in general, and especially when it comes to mobile business?
Yeah, I think there is. There's a thing. I mean, I've heard it before. I don't know who it's attributed to, but there's like a, if I'd known what I was getting into, I probably wouldn't have done it. It's like a certain form of naivety, naivete, I guess. But I think that can be good because you don't really know what you're getting into, because you're just like, "Hey, I have this cool idea. I know it can be big. I'm committed to do it." Right? And that's, I think, the key is just being committed to doing something. But, I do think there is, because there's different phases of this. I have clients at every different phase. Like one today, they did a big launch, a new, a launch yesterday, and they're having issues today with people, finding new bugs, and having issues with, well, what device are they using, but they're at a place where they've gotten past the idea. We've built the thing, we've launched the thing. Now they're at a, like, tech support improvement, bug fixing type of thing, which is a whole different game than trying to validate the idea in the first place. You know what I mean? Um, so I think there are knowledge gaps. Everyone's pretty tech savvy, I would say, these days, as far as,
Yeah.
we all really kind of need to use a computer on our um for our job in some way or another. Um, but I think there's a knowledge gap when it comes to, um not only like what's required to actually, like, run a SaaS company or a software company, but to actually message it and market it correctly and sell it correctly. I think that's the big thing. You see, like, there's zombie apps all over the place. Like, there's people don't realize how big of a market the App Store and Google Play actually are, because yeah, there might be millions and millions and millions of apps, but it's just like podcasting. There's like a very, very small percentage of them that make all the revenue, you know?
Right.
So it's I think there's more of a knowledge gap there than really, like, the technical pieces that would need to be done, because everyone really knows, like, kind of what they want it to do, generally
Hmm.
how they want it to look, like, they kinda have that vision in their mind. Um, but there is, and it's funny, I've worked with a couple of people too that, there's either people who are really kind of more like me, kind of on the technical side of like, you tell me what you want, and I'm immediately thinking, how can I build that with the skills that I have and the people that I can work with and the way the technology is built. But then you have people who are in the creative space that just they can they can see and envision how everything's going to sequentially work and how this is all going to come together, but they don't know how to build a certain like a single thing. They wouldn't even know how to sign up for an account to actually get the thing done, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really interesting when it comes to different people. Like there's a big spectrum of like that knowledge. Because some people might be more in the middle of like, well, I can kind of visualize it, but I can kind of build it too. And it's like it might not look pretty, but it'll work and it'll kind of get done. And then there's kind of people, that can just build stuff and never design, and there's people that can design and never build. So um yeah, it's interesting. It's but when people have I think people have their expertise nailed down in their niche and in their idea of like, hey, I can be an authority in this and I really know what this can do and what it can do. But then when it comes to like, how do I actually bring it to life? That's where people fall short, I think.
Yeah, so it's good that you mentioned this because I wanted to ask you about your own experience of growing this business. So you started it because out of your own frustration, right? So you were looking for something, and then you turned it into a business. So this is something I always tell people: try to find, you know, something you probably struggled with, and then see if others are struggling with the same thing, and then you build it. But when it comes to consultancy businesses like your stand, things are different. What I was curious to know about is what was the right, I would say, or the secret sauce, if I might say it like this, to really be able to grow it and be, make it successful and acquire clients. How fellow people who, whenever they are starting it in the app business or they are building their app to create something, what's the secret sauce of acquiring customers? At least from your point of view, of course.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, so as far as, from what I do, referral based building is kind of the main way that I've grown. Like there's always people that we build things for, and then they always have a network that they're like pushing people to us. So from that, agency perspective, that's kind of how that's grown. Um so kind of I guess what you're asking is kind of like for people who are building the actual software, right?
Right.
Yeah. Um there's a lot of different ways we've seen people, for me, like I've had apps that really took off using ASO, right? Just using that app store optimization of let's really make some good screenshots, let's make some good um, you know, promo videos, those types of things. But I see a lot of people have a lot of success just kind of really initially launching to their own crowd, like their own list, their own Facebook group, kind of getting that initial traction. Um, and then kind of really hacking it from there. And by hacking it, I mean making it super easy for people to share, to invite people. That's really, I think, a secret sauce of getting an app to grow is to make it so it really there is kind of a social component built into it. Because a lot of times there might just be, hey, this is a thing that I use and I don't ever tell anyone about. There's no way to share it. It's just built for one person, and you're just operating in silos, right? But if you make it so you can share, you can invite, you can collaborate with people in one way or another, whatever. And maybe your idea doesn't allow that. But that really, I think, really kind of makes it easier for adoption and things like that. Um, and then there's always the way that people. I've really been shocked at um, the the versatility and how well QR codes work.
Mm.
That has been something I would never expect. I never it blows me away every time we make like QR codes for people. It's like, hey, download on the App Store, Google Play, or get the version here or whatever. And that drives more action than you would ever anticipate, honestly. Like that is actually like whether you put up a flyer, you put it up on a slide or whatever it is, the QR code is should not be underestimated. Let me tell you what, like that is a really, really powerful thing that that actually makes a lot of things grow quickly. It's kind of shocking.
True, and I think the reason is because we are curious by nature, so we want to know where this QR code leads us.
Yeah.
I know from myself, whenever I see a QR code, whatever it is, I want to know like what is it for. So I just scan and I go there. But of course,
Yeah.
I've seen even like different businesses, even like big companies, actually, they use the QR code to drive traffic to their website or mobile app, whatever, because uh, it's easy way to access. You don't need to send anything, just like it's very convenient, and then just open it. So yeah, I think you're right. And the other thing is when you attach this or like you combine this, uh, especially for a mobile app, I've seen this very successful. If you have like kind of a physical presence in an event, or I don't know, like maybe you are uh, launching a campaign or something like this, it works ultimately perfect. Like
Yeah.
I've seen it successful. So 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
So, uh, Dan, where we can find more about the work you do and about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. So the main site, dappermobileapps.com, that's the main website that we have. I've mentioned a couple of times on here, do have a show. Um, currently, I've been changing the name a couple of times, but currently it's called Tech Bites with Dan Hafner. So you can
Nice.
you can tune into that show as well. You can find it at dappermobileapps.com. Talk a lot more deep dives into all this technical stuff and no code and AI and all kinds of different cool things like that. So yeah, I would just point people to dappermobileapps.com and you can find out a lot there. We even have a cool little app cost calculator I've put together. You can get an exact
Nice.
quote of what your idea might cost you. So yeah, you can check it out.
Nice. I will make sure that I will put all these links in the show notes. Dan, this is like some the way I end. Is there anything that you wished I had asked you? Like, did I miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I think, I would just close kind of the way I like to close a lot of things is I see too many people just sit on ideas forever. I've done this myself. But if you really do have some kind of idea, 2024 is coming up soon. Don't just sit on it. There could be somebody. I hate to see stories of people that are like, man, I had that idea, and then somebody went on and did it. And now there's
Yeah,
an and then they're making all kinds of whatever. So if that's it, look into this. Maybe it's a solution for you. Maybe it's something that helps you get something going. Maybe it's another hobby that you can pick up or whatever like that. So just don't let your ideas sit. That's all. I hate to see ideas die in silence.
100%, and I agree with you. And this is a call to action, actually, to anyone who's listening or maybe watching, especially if you are here the first time. Act now, act as fast as possible. Uh, uh, don't, and again, I want to remind them of what you mentioned at the beginning of the episode regarding the cost. Don't be tricked by, these six-figure numbers. It cannot cost you this. If you are in the US, maybe you can reach out to Dan. He can help you actually in making it in a more cost-effective way. So you don't need to pay these large amounts, especially if you are still in the MVP phase. And yeah, like again, this this technology is here to stay. We discussed this, especially the PWA, the Progressive Web App. So I encourage you to check, the website of Dan and listen to his podcast if you are interested more into the mobile space. And as you know, this is how I end my show. We're trying to get different topics. So it was the first time we speak about specifically the mobile app space. So thank you, Dan, very much for your insights and sharing your experience with us today. And as usual, if you have questions, point them out to me. If you have questions to Dan, also same. And we will be meeting again very soon. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Hit that subscribe button, share the show with your tech-savvy friends and fellow entrepreneurs, and leave us a review on your favorite podcast app. Your support means the world to us.